How's it, everyone? Welcome to another racket review right here on OpenCourt. So today I'm reviewing a racket that is endorsed by the 2024 Australian Open champion Jannik Sinner. That racket is the Head Auxetic 2.0 Speed Pro. Let's check it out. So first, big shout out to On Point Sports here in Hawaii. They were gracious enough to let me borrow this racket. They have a great selection of tennis and pickleball gear. So if you guys are ever in Honolulu or Oahu, check out On Point Sports for all your tennis related needs. Okay, so the Speed Pro is endorsed by 2024 Australian Open champion Jannik Sinner, as well as Novak Djokovic, to name a few. To be clear, that they're endorsing it, they're not actually using it. I know Djokovic uses like an old Radical that's painted to look like the Speed, but that's a discussion for another day. The Speed line is probably my favorite racket line of all time. I've used every iteration of the Speed since the 𝐦𝐤𝐸 days, and I love this racket for its amazing control from the baseline. So this Speed Pro has been updated with Speed's Auxetic 2.0 technology. Auxetic technology is meant to increase ball feel and optimize that flex. It's included in the yoke or the bridge over here, and with the 2.0 head says that it has also included the Auxetic material at the end of the handle. They say at the end of the handle, which is a little bit unclear to me. Do they mean at the end of the butt cap here, or do they mean at the end of the handle on this side? If you guys know in the comments, let me know, because I'm not entirely sure. But to me, it would make more sense if they included it here, because the racket, the vibrations from the ball impacting the strings will travel down here. It doesn't really make sense to me for them to put Auxetic at the end of the handle here. I think it's here. So if you guys know, please let me know. Head has also integrated its Graphene 360 technology, which they've had in the last 3 generations or so, I believe. And they've also included something called the Power Grommet system, which actually widens the grommet holes so that there's a little bit more string movement to increase power and spin. But for me, the biggest change with the Speed comes in the specs. So let's take a look at that right now. So these are the specs of the new Speed Pro, and everything remains virtually the same except for that balance point, which has been shifted down from 315 to 310. That is awesome news for me, because that has been the one flaw of the previous generation. I like a head lighter balance, so these specs seem more geared towards my game. All right, I'm on court with the new 2024 Speed. I'm super excited because this is the update to my racket of choice. The Speed line is my favorite line in Head's lineup. Well, I like the Boom too, but this racket gives incredible control from the baseline, and oh yeah, I can already feel it on the slice. That new balance, I can't really tell right off the bat because the Speed's always had a good headlight balance, but that's why I like the Speed, because it swings really fast on the ground strokes, and yet that tight 18-20 pattern gives it that low launch for good control. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's just so much control and confidence from the baseline. I can just keep swinging all day. It does feel a little bit muted, even with this crisp Yonex Polytour drive string in here. But then again, I'm trying to compare it to the 360 Speed Pro from a few generations ago. I think it feels about the same as the previous gen in terms of dampening. But I can still feel the ball. Yeah, there we go. I just really love the Speed from the baseline. Offense, defense, slices, ground strokes. Has a decent amount of power. So the Speed, in my opinion, shines much more from the baseline. It's not to say it's a bad volley racket, it's just, it definitely is more of a baseliner stick with its tight pattern. Good balance of maneuverability and stability. Yeah, as long as I meet the ball in front, it's nice and solid. But it's still a little bit kind of clunky. I don't really know the right word. I've always felt the Speed played better from the baseline on full, fast, aggressive ground strokes, but as long as I block the ball in front, it's nice and solid. And I like the feel. I can really feel the ball on the strings. That's probably the strings, but I can feel the flex the racket bending, I can really feel where I'm hitting the ball. See, the outstretched volleys and the low volleys, those reaction volleys is where I actually like the speed because it's maneuverable. And I think this version is even more maneuverable than the previous one. Man, I'm excited to play a match with this. Maybe add some weight to the throat to increase the heft. I just really have to block it back. All right, so let's get into my full thoughts on the new Speed Pro. So let's start with the pros of the 2024 Head Speed Pro. There is a reason this racket is probably my favorite racket line of all time, and it's because of the amazing control and precision from the baseline. In my opinion, this is one of the best baseline rackets out there. The more modern Speed with its slightly thicker beam has the perfect blend of power, spin, and control. I really like that the 1820 string pattern produces a low trajectory. I feel like I can rally from the baseline all day. To be honest, I really like the 22mm beam from the older models, and I didn't think that needed to change, but the extra 1mm does make a difference in terms of power. This is the reason I prefer the Speed Pro over the Prestige Pro. The Speed gives me a little bit of help with power, whereas with the Prestige, it's all up to the player. I can't produce much power on my own, so the Speed is more suited to my game. It also swings very fast on ground strokes, so although it has a tighter pattern, topspin is effortless with the Speed. I almost never felt like I would overhit the ball past the baseline. When I wanted to lift up by hitting topspin on a ball below my knees, the Speed gave me the racket acceleration to hit low diving topspin. Command is the word I would use to describe the Speed Pro. I feel so in command and confident in my aggressive ground stroke game. I can hit deep and trust the topspin will bring the ball down inside the baseline. Hitting toward the sideline is also easy, and I could get the ball to fall inside. I like to take aggressive cuts on my return of serves, and this is a shot that I've always felt the Speed excels at. I can easily step in and redirect pace with the Speed, and I can trust the ball will stay in because of the low launch angle. This new update with its slightly whippier feel made me swing a bit too early at times, but once I got used to it, my returns were on point. I felt some added punch on my ground strokes, and this is most likely due to the new power grommet system. Speaking of power, one area that I've always struggled with the older generation Speed Pros was the flat serve. Prior to the Graphene 360 edition, the Speed Pros had a much tighter pattern, and I had difficulty hitting penetrating flat serves. Since the Graphene 360 edition, the string pattern has opened up a bit, despite staying in 1820, and the wider string pacing meant more pop on my flat serve. The open 1820 thicker beam and power grommets makes the new Speed one of the best 1820 rackets on serve that I've ever tried. Topspin is also much easier to generate on the kick serve with this update. The string spacing coupled with the headlighter balance meant I could pronate easier and get the serve to kick up and out. I've customized the Speed Pro I own by adding weight under the butt cap to increase maneuverability. The 2024 Speed felt very similar in stock form, so I would love to add some weight to this to create even more maneuverability. Needless to say, the slice serves were also great. I could hit some decent power on slice serves, and whether I aimed toward the sideline, down the tee, or into the body, I felt comfortable following the slice serve to the net. Speaking of net, I've always felt the Speed Pro is a much better baseline racket than volley racket. That may have been true in the past, but Head has done a good job of keeping the strengths while solving the weaknesses of this racket. As a result, the 2024 Speed Pro is the most balanced Speed I've ever tried in terms of baseline and net playability. The slightly headlighter balance meant I could get the Speed into position on reflex volleys, defensive digs, half volleys, low volleys, and outstretched poaches. Previous editions of the Speed have always felt a bit clunky at net, meaning I didn't have the scalpel-like accuracy and precision that I have with something like the new Babolat Pure Strike 98. This new Speed is not quite as precise as the Pure Strike at net, but it still gets the job done. It did feel a little more responsive than the previous version, and that may be due to the added Auxetic, but I have no way of knowing for sure. Regardless if it's a marketing ploy or not, I felt this version of the Speed performed much better at net than the previous version, and certainly better than the 2013 Speed Pro. That is one of my favorite rackets of all time, but it's a hard racket to use at net. I want to touch on the stiffness just a bit. I think this new Speed Pro has decent ball feel and impact response, but I don't think anyone who has sensitive arms will feel any discomfort. That said, I talked with my friend who also tried this racket, and he said he thought this update felt a bit stiffer than the previous model, but even he acknowledged it's more comfortable than the Speeds of old. I appreciated this direct feedback. Coming off of the Diadem Nova playtest as well as the Yonex Percept playtest still being fresh in my mind, I like that head rackets still give players a good balance of comfort and response and haven't over-dampened their frames. And lastly, I just want to touch on a couple small things I noticed. First, I really like the two-tone colorway of black and white. Some people I know don't really like the new paint job. I think it looks like an Oreo cookie, but I love Oreos, so I don't care. The paint job also doesn't chip easily compared to the Diadem Nova matte paint job I tried earlier this year. Second, I've always liked Head's grip palettes. The grip feels true to size and the flare at the bottom fits securely in my palm. I don't feel as comfortable with the grips of Yonex and Babolat rackets, which I've made known on this channel. I know these are minor things, but I do pay attention to this stuff, and this new Speed Pro was a joy to play with. Now, let's get into the cons. Okay, I can't think of any. I'm trying to think of something negative to say about the new Speed, but I can't think of any real nitpicks either. Maybe just that I wished Head kept the 22mm beam width of the older models. I know I said the extra thickness gives the racket extra power, which I like, which seems a bit contradictory, but you could always string with a soft poly or gut if you need more power. I preferred the thinner beam from the past because I felt it cut through the air a tad faster and provides better directional control. Also, I would love to see a 98 square inch 18-19 string pattern Speed. That would be my ideal spec. I know we're getting into my dream racket now, but honestly, I have nothing negative to say about the new Speed. They fixed one of the issues I've had with the previous model, which was the 315mm balance, which started with the Graphene 360 model. The new 310 balance is perfect, and that's the balance that the older 2013 Speed Pros had. And this gives me some room to customize to my ideal weight and balance. But in terms of real cons, I can't really think of anything negative to say, so if someone out there tried this racket and didn't like it for some reason, please let us know in the comments. So who is the 2024 Head Auxetic 2.0 Speed Pro for? I think the Speed Pro is for players who have a strong baseline game and want control and precision on full swings, but also want something that packs a bit of punch. If you want full-on control, the Prestige Pro might be more your flavor. The Speed Pro strikes a good balance between power and control and also provides decent spin to boot. So to wrap up, the Speedline has been one of my favorite rackets in existence, and this new update with its slightly head lighter balance and increased power level is probably my favorite Speed of all time. Head is also releasing the update to the Boom very soon, and I would like to do a head-to-head comparison between the two. So what do you guys think of the Speedline? Have you tried it? Did you notice a difference from the previous model? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for all the support for my channel. Thank you for watching this review of the 2024 Head Auxetic 2.0 Speed Pro right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.